out this morning. My name is Matt Olaf. I'm the Iowa-based organizer with Food and Water Watch. We are here today to call on Governor Branstad to oppose and reject the proposed oil pipeline from the Bakken region of North Dakota, which is being called the Dakota Access Pipeline. Joining me today as speakers are Angie Carter, representing the Women, Food, and Agriculture Network, Wally Taylor, representing the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, Ross Gruters with Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement, and two landowners who live along the proposed pipeline route, Pam Alexander from outside of Ottumwa, and Joe Reuter, who farms in Boone County. After everyone speaks, we can answer questions from the press, and then we'll walk over to the governor's office in the Iowa State Capitol to deliver over 2,300 petitions from Iowans calling on Governor Branstad to use his power to stop this pipeline from being built. This petition delivery to Governor Branstad is part of Food and Water Watch's third annual Global Frackdown, which is a worldwide week of action against fracking and fracking-related oil and gas infrastructure. In the past week, as part of the Global Frackdown, there have been over 300 local events around the world in 32 countries and 6 continents in opposition to fracking and fracking-related projects. While Iowa currently is not facing fracking directly, this proposed pipeline through Iowa would be hauling around 570,000 barrels of crude oil from the Bakken region of North Dakota that was produced through fracking. This proposed pipeline makes it clear that no community is immune to the harms of fracking. Whether it's the devastation in communities that are being fracked directly and are facing air and water pollution, increased earthquakes, and a number of social costs, whether it's communities like Northeast Iowa and Wisconsin that are confronted with the devastation of industrial sand mining from the sand that's used in fracking, to communities across the country that are dealing with fracking infrastructure like pipelines and export facilities, or whether it's the global community that's confronted with extreme weather events from climate change, from increased methane use and carbon from fracking. Like I said, this pipeline shows that it's clear that no community is immune from the harms of fracking. That's why we must ban fracking and all fracking-related projects like the Bakken Access Pipeline. We must also make significant investments in clean, renewable energy for a sustainable future. The proposed pipeline would be a disaster for the state of Iowa and the people of Iowa. Governor Branstad must represent what is in the best interest of the state and stop this pipeline from being proposed, or from being a reality. So now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Wally Taylor with the Iowa Sierra Club.
Good morning. The overwhelming issue of our time is climate change. It affects all of us, the farming community especially, the environment, and our economy. We cannot let fossil fuels continue to damage and wreck our economy and our environment and our earth. Every president since Richard Nixon has said in one way or the other, America has an addiction to oil. We have to stop that addiction. The Bakken region of North Dakota, which became the epicenter of oil drilling in the past few years, is another example of our addiction. And this pipeline across Iowa enables that addiction. We cannot let this pipeline continue to enable that addiction and continue to increase climate change. We have to get beyond oil. There are alternatives, and we must take the lead. Iowa can take the lead here by stopping this pipeline to get us off of oil and the impact of climate change. So every Iowan should do whatever we can to stop this pipeline. It harms the environment, it harms property, it harms the economy, and it harms people. Iowa's leaders and Iowa's citizens must do everything we can to stop this pipeline. That's why the Sierra Club is actively engaged in this effort, and we want everybody in Iowa to join us.
My name is Angie Carter, and I'm here this morning from the Women Food and Agriculture Network. I'm here today to talk about being a good neighbor and why Energy Transfer Partners would be a bad neighbor. I'm a fifth-generation Iowan, so I know a little bit about the importance of being a good neighbor to Iowans. Energy Transfer Partners, or any oil company asking to transfer their crude oil across our state, is not going to be a good neighbor. How do I know this? Because already the oil companies have been bad neighbors to those communities around the Bakken oil fields that are being used as ecological sacrifice zones. They are bad neighbors whenever their oil, radioactive waste, and saltwater spill. They are bad neighbors when the risks associated with the oil extraction have led to North Dakota having the highest rate of worker deaths in the United States. They are bad neighbors when Indigenous women are trafficked to and disappear in their oil field boomtowns. They are bad neighbors when their pipelines spill and pollute water and contaminate soil. They are bad neighbors when farmers find oil spills the size of 7 football fields bubbling up from the ground, as one North Dakota farmer did last year during his fall wheat harvest. They are bad neighbors because they make their profit exploiting land and people, even as we know that our oil economy is accelerating climate change and putting our livelihoods at risk. This proposed pipeline will cut across 17 of Iowa's counties and all of our major watersheds, endangering our public health and our water. Proponents of the pipeline contest that it will be safer to transport this oil by pipeline than by rail, but they are not good neighbors either. We know better. This is not an either-or question. Whether by rail or pipeline, the transfer of toxic crude oil poses serious risk to us and comes at too great a cost. There's one answer here, and that's no. No, we will not allow this oil transported through Iowa or anywhere. No, we will not remain silent about the injustice associated with the extraction of this oil. No, we will not accept that this exploitation is necessary. No, we will not put our futures at risk. If we do not allow the companies to use our states as transfer zones, then they will not be able to move their oil. If they cannot move their oil, then this oil will stay in the ground where it should stay. We can stop this and we can shut them down. But first we must demand that Governor Branstad and our state's leaders work instead with industries that are good neighbors, industries that invest in solar and wind energy and can be good stewards to sustainable energy production in our state. As Iowans, we can and we must be good neighbors and demand that the fracking in the Bakken oil fields stop, that the companies be held accountable for the damage they have already caused, that their oil not be allowed to cross our state. Thank you. Next up is Pam, who comes from Ottumwa, is a landowner down near Ottumwa.
Thank you. I'm here today because I feel like some farmers need to speak up. Some people think it's not their responsibility.
Can you say who you are?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Pam Alexander. I'm a landowner. We have land in Manhasset County. I live in Ottumwa.
And is it Alexander?
Yes.
Okay. Is it farmland?
It's farmland.
Okay.
For the record, I'm not just getting on the bandwagon because our land might be affected by this pipeline. I've been against the Keystone for several years, and when it hits home, it's even worse. I have a lot of questions and concerns about transfer energy, but today I want to focus on our farmland. When they come in, they're wanting 150 feet to construct this thing. I got to wondering just exactly what is 150 feet. Well, when I was at the football game the other night, it's a half a length of the football field. That's a wide swath of land. And they want to dig 6 to 7 feet deep using heavy machinery and stuff that will destroy our topsoil. The other farmers I've talked to, a lot of them have grid tiling on their land that they've spent years and a lot of money putting in. It's my understanding that we will not be able to lay tile across the pipeline, so this can affect drainage in a lot of farm fields. They're going to pay, they say, for their damage, but they're not going to be around to put the tile back in, and who knows, it may not ever be able to put back in. The topsoil will be ruined for years, if not forever, and production will go down. The value of our land could drop, because who wants land that's got a pipeline carrying a minimum of 320,000 gallons of oil through the property? And as one man mentioned at one of the meetings, It's not if this pipeline will leak, it's when and where it will leak. The effects, I've heard people say, well, I'm not concerned because it doesn't concern me. Well, it does concern all Iowans and people in this country. We will have to live with the effects of the leakage. And if you like to fish or hunt, it could affect our lands, our streams, our rivers, our lakes. This thing wants to go across the Mississippi River twice, once to Illinois and then back again to Texas. It's just not right. It is my belief that state officials should protect the interests of its citizens. One landman told a farmer that Branstad had already approved eminent domain. Now, I don't know who's telling the truth, and it's hard to say, but I hope he hasn't. When the oil runs out, the pipeline deteriorates, whose problem is it then? Who's benefiting from these pipelines? It's not the farmers and the landowners. We have to think further into the future, not just today. The future generations, our children and grandchildren, need a clean and healthy environment. And right now they're working on renewable energy in this state, the healthy state, and I hope that they keep in that line and forget about the pipeline. It is my hope that the Utilities Board and the Governor know that not all farmers and landowners are in favor of the Bakken pipeline. And I sincerely hope that they will do what they can to stop it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. My name is Ross Gruters, and I'm a member of Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement, and I'm a union locomotive engineer. As a union member, I understand the importance of good paying, stable employment to this state. Not the kind of fly-by-night contract work from out of state which ETP will bring to build their pipeline. I know that companies like Transfer Partners and other pipeline projects have grossly overestimated their jobs estimates. KXL being one example of where companies have tried to sell the state and the people that they will generate jobs. These jobs are not an asset to the state of Iowa, and we should be steady for the many jobs claims they make. As a member of Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement, we have worked tirelessly for good government which works of, by, and for the people, not to do the bidding of corporations like Energy Transfer Partners so that they can exploit and profit from our state's natural resources. Government at all levels, from city, county, and Attorney General's office to the Governor's office and his appointed Iowa Utilities Board, they should work to stop this pipeline because there are only risks for the people in the state of Iowa, not benefits. But let me suggest a much bigger reason that we should all be opposed to this pipeline. Just under 1 month ago in New York City, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets in a strong call for action on climate change. We have an opportunity in Iowa, once again, to lead the way. When Pam Alexander comes from Ottumwa as a property owner to speak, she does so not as an isolated individual, but as a growing number of people along the pipeline route from the Dakotas to Iowa and into Illinois and down to the Gulf. People who have come together to oppose the continued dependence on fossil fuels. When Wally Taylor comes to speak, he represents not just Iowa Sierra Club, but tens of thousands of Iowans who enjoy our public lands and believe that these lands should not be used as a land grab for a company to profit at our expense. When Matt Olaf speaks, he represents not just the experience of Food and Water Watch on fracking across the nation, but he represents the people that have seen the devastation that is caused by fracking in these communities. When Angie Carter speaks, she does so not on behalf of the struggle of millions of indigenous people and women, but people all over the globe she's representing through her ag network. And people who are wanting to stop the exploitation of their land and their bodies as a result of fossil fuel companies who are waging a destructive war against our environment. An Iowa pipeline would support the exploitation of these largely vulnerable and unheard populations. Now is a chance for Iowa leaders to lead the way. We are here to call on the governor to sit down with Iowans, the real stakeholders in the implementation of this pipeline, and do what is right by rejecting ETP's proposal. We ask other elected leaders do the same, from county board of supervisors to state legislators. And we bring with us a petition of about 2,300 people also supporting our effort to stop this pipeline. So we'll answer any questions you have before we go deliver the petition to the governor's office. And then we invite everybody here to go and deliver the petition to the governor's office and ask for a meeting so that the governor can understand what the real stake is for Iowans. Thank you.
Any questions?
Pam, do you want, is it farmland that you own?
Yes.
How many acres?
One farm's 80, and I'm not sure if they're wanting in the other field. They wouldn't talk to my mother, so I don't know.
Oh, I see. But how many total acres you own?
80 in the one farm that we know,
Okay.
that we received papers on.
Oh, I see. And then you own another farm too in Manhattan?
Across the road.
Oh, I see. Another farm across the road.
Pam, do you know if they've talked to some of your neighbors with surrounding
They
areas?
talked to some of our neighbors. A lot of them were trying not to talk to them because they don't want them on their land at all. They talked to some, and a lot of the older people, he's a nice guy, you know, I couldn't see anything the matter, would let them take a look. It's sad. One lady, they harassed some people, kind of. They've been persistent that they signed those papers and told them if they didn't, eminent domain would be coming in, which I don't think they have a right to tell them that and threaten them like that. Some people have told them to get off their land. My husband, a few weeks ago, was mowing our land, and two guys came up out of the bean field with a yellow measuring thing. When he asked them if they had permission, they said yeah, and he asked to see the papers, and they took off running across the road into the cornfield. So we can't prove that they were with there, but I don't know who else would be out there doing that.
And Bill, legally, they cannot negotiate with the landowners or talk about buying the land until after they have these public meetings in December.
The farmers need to stand up and fight this eminent domain and take them to court. I took them to court when the highway was going through my place, and they were only gonna give us $20,000, and we ended up taking it to condemnation board, and we ended up with $52,000. So it can be possible, if farmers stick together, they can fight this, but they gotta be able to be willing to take it to court, get them some good lawyers, and take them to court. It's gonna may cost you out of your pocket. By God, get a fund started. Get a fund. I'll be willing to donate to that fund. Fight these sons of guns.
They did it in Nebraska, so they can do it here.
And Ross, where are you from?
I live in Pleasant Hill outside of Des Moines.
And the first person who was up here at
Right here.
that was Matt?
Matt Olaf.
It's Matt.
Matt Olaf, yeah.
And where are you from, Matt?
Des Moines.
O-L-O-H-L.
OHL.
And you're with
Food and Water Watch,
Food and Water Watch. And what's that?
a national advocacy organization protecting our food and water resources.
But you have an office here?
Yes.
Sources, okay. And Wally, you're from Cedar Rapids, right? Yeah. Who else spoke? And where are you from?
Ames?
Okay, so, and your name again, it's E-N-G-I-E?
Yes, and then Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R.
Okay, and you're with?
Women, Food, and Agriculture Network.
Food and Agriculture. and that organization is? It's
A national nonprofit serving sustainable ag women and working for a more sustainable agri-food system.
This is kind of a question for anyone, but obviously with Randstad's support of the Keystone Pipeline already, when this came out earlier this year, did you guys think that maybe his response would be different since there was already...
No, we didn't.
No.
It's
That's why we're here.
standard Branstad. Standard.
I'd say not only is Brandstad's response not any different than the Keystone XL, I would say he has misled Iowans when he says we need more facts. I would say that he's done more than enough contradiction to show that he is in full support of this, and that is why we're delivering this petition, to show that Iowans do not want this in our state, and we don't want it for this country.
I would add the governor has not been hesitant at all about vocally supporting different projects. Now he needs to be vocal in opposing a project that's going to be terribly damaging to Iowa.
How about Hatch? He hasn't spoken out on it.
Pardon me?
How about Jack Hatch? He hasn't spoken
Haven't
out
heard
on it.
much.
That's what I mean.
He's refused to take a stand.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So what do you think about that?
Well, right now, we're calling on Governor Branstad as the sitting governor to reject this pipeline.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
What's that?
We have one more person, landowner, who can speak. His name's Joe Reuter. If you'd like to join us, Joe.
Joe, how do you spell your name?
Reuter, R-E-U-T-T-E-R, just like the news agency, except it has two T's.
Okay, where are you from?
I have farmland in Boone County.
If you'd like, you can use the mic at the podium or wherever you feel comfortable, Joe.
I can speak now.
Sure.
And would it go through your land?
Yes, I've been notified
Okay.
that I'm one of the possible routes.
Okay, can you just talk up there, I guess?
Good morning.
And you're opposed to it?
Yes, I am opposed to it, and this is why. We're just finishing 2 years of cover crops. We're trying to clean the water up in Iowa, at least help anyway. And this 150-foot strip that will be coming through would totally destroy the soil. They'll all be mixed together. Something that takes years and years and years for nature to straighten out. So I'm opposed to it from that standpoint. And I'm just thinking this morning, driving up, we have two other easements on that land. One is a rural electric cooperative, but that's no problem because we benefit from that. We're able to hook onto that system for electricity. And the other one is we have a small natural gas pipeline along the edge of the property, and it does provide a benefit to us because one of the agreements in the original easement was we would be able to hook onto natural gas. So we have a farmstead out in the country with natural gas. So those benefit us. But I don't see any benefit at all in this crude oil pipeline because I see it as nothing but a liability. Oh yeah, I'm sure that we'll get a few dollars initially for damage to crops, that sort of thing. But I'm going to be possibly stuck with a long-term liability. For example, what happens if there's a big leak and maybe the company is not really making any money in this thing and they decide to go bankrupt? Am I now responsible to clean this up? So those are some of the reasons why I am opposed to the crude oil pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, we can head on over to the governor's office.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the reporters.
In doing your research, my question is, what impact would the leaking underground storage tank law have in respect to this pipeline, referring to Mr. Reuter's concern. Would that have some impact? I don't know, but it would seem that it would when you talk about leaking.
It's not underground storage tank.
Well, I know it's not a tank, but
The federal government has regulation over the safety of the pipeline.
so the state had nothing to do with that.
Well, I wouldn't say nothing, but mainly it's the same.
I will be. I am going to put you down for a second. Whenever I go live, you stream automatically post to Facebook that I'm streaming.
Vice President's talk.
But
We have an action.
also later.
Yeah, because I was, you know about the Greg Clark's from my climate action, Great March for Climate
Yeah.
Action, right? I was one of those people. I had to come out. I didn't go all the way stop in New York.
Yeah.
The march was like.
Yeah, I stream the event. I stream the event here.
Yeah.
And whenever there's a Facebook event that I go to, I always post on it that I'll be streaming.
Okay.
And I have posted before that I'll be streaming.
Well, how would I find your Facebook page?
On Facebook, look for Occupier Kaylin.
Occupier Kaylin?
Yeah, Occupier Kaylin Lee String. But if you start with just Occupier Kaylin, then that's, then my, the rest of my name will pop up.
All right.
Oop. Someone forgot something. Yeah, someone forgot the bullhorn.
My cousin goes to Nebraska, Iowa, and she's been standing doing a bunch of stuff down there with the farmers down there. Got to try to take the I got involved when because it was a friend of ours. I walked across.
Yeah, this guy who's in front of me has pieces on his arms, and then he has a piece that he puts on his back, and when he extends his arms and puts a piece on his back, then he's basically representing a wind turbine. So now we are going over to the Capitol, which was going to be the original location. I have more signs in my bag. No, it didn't come over. Maybe turning it on might help. Or checking to see if there's batteries in it.
Oh, what happened?
Now we are going over to the Capitol where we originally were going to start, but it was raining earlier this morning. It's not raining right at present. But,
hey, everybody, hold on a second. Let's all get together as a group. Slow down. Wait. We want to get together as a group.
Put a motor on that thing.
totally unrelated, but I have flyers for tonight's Kucinich event and the rest of Occupy the World Food Prize.
You got what now?
I have flyers for the Kucinich event tonight and for Occupy the World Food Prize.
Bakken pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Bakken pipeline's got to go. Bakken pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. 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 Bakken Bakken pipeline's got to go.